back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
And we are back. It is the full crew from Sooner Scoop here for the unofficial 40 podcast. No controversial, what I didn't think would be controversial, but was guest host joining us this week. Josh McCuistion is back with us. Did you not have power last week? I don't even know what. You were just off last week, and we let you go. And thanks, it melted down the board. So
Jason Kersey screwing things up as usual, but whatever. Thanks, Kersey.
He didn't do anything wrong.
It was astutely brought up on the board that since Kersey joined us, OU hasn't won a basketball game. So it's clearly there's some kind of connection there.
Well, but has Sherry Cole lost? Maybe there's a give and take here.
I think the answer is no.
It's no. It is no.
Did they not get beat by Baylor in that time?
No, they won at Texas. They beat Texas Tech.
Well, why don't you just go cover the women then, Bob? If you know something.
Well, it's weird. During Bedlam, they put OU Texas on the big screen during timeouts and stuff. So I knew about that one.
Jesus, no wonder they lost on Saturday.
Well, let's talk about it. OU's on a 3-game losing streak. 2 were in Bedlam, which does not make anyone happy. But Bob, this team, not finishers down the stretch, essentially, is what I've seen from this team the last 3 games.
Yeah, and you sort of wonder how's this falling? Is Austin Reeves having to carry the ball the whole time and be a ball hog because that's what's best for the team, or is it because no one else can step up into that role? And is there any dissension? When you're 14-5, you're 9-4 in conference. You don't really care if it feels like, maybe he's got the ball too much. You just keep winning. That's fine. But now that things are a little off track, you sort of wonder, is there anything they can really do to change who they are in the next couple of weeks, or do you just have to live and die with Reeves got the ball and it's up to him to try to make the best choice?
Well, the one positive you can take out of 3 losses, you saw life from Brady Manick, which we all know it consistently, it hasn't happened ever probably for Brady Manick. And if you're looking for it's just, Bob, it's been such a mishmash of players coming in, going out. People rely on. Elijah Harkless at one point was kind of carrying the load for this team, and then he disappears. And then Manick pretty much gets completely replaced in favor of putting Kirk Weth in the game. And it's like Moji Gibson's hitting threes here and there, but it's not really, down, like we said, down the stretch. Nobody's doing anything to step up and really separate themselves. I think back when Reeves was out, remember the fadeaway that Harkless made in the lane that was just like, whoa, what a shot. What a big-time shot. Like, nobody's stepped up and hit a shot like that in the last week.
And there's also like a freak occurrence. He just happened to have the ball and he had to shoot. And now it's just, Reeves has got it. And it seems like, he's trying to penetrate and kick. But a lot of times, and we've said it on Twitter, and Carrie, I know you've said it on Twitter, like, he's forcing it. He just kind of drives into people looking for contact that the refs aren't buying it now. So even when he does get hit, he doesn't go to the line as much because he's done it so much throughout the season where he's initiated everything and he hasn't really earned that right. But, going back to Manick, it was a great first half, but 16 of the 20 was in the first half, and second half he really wasn't the same guy, and you sort of wonder, can he keep it up? It was a nice 1/2 rebirth, of what Manick can do, and we'll get to talk to Brady here in about an hour or so, and that's the first time we've talked to Brady in about a month, and I would have never told you that if he was playing, we would go nearly a month without talking to Manick.
Well, and go ahead, Eddie.
Oh, I was just going to say, I guess the other side of it too is I mean, glass half full look would be, yeah, it was awful. That's a terrible loss in Manhattan. But it also took. It's not like they just went and got their ass whooped by OSU. It took maybe one of the all-time performances on Saturday on behalf of Cade Cunningham, and then obviously just didn't make enough plays on Monday night in Stillwater. Like I know there's a lot of freak out amongst the fan base right now, but I don't know. Am I just complete homer to think that there's still a lot out there, and a lot could be kind of righted, I guess, if they win on Thursday. I mean, Thursday's a must-win. You can start pushing the panic buttons if all of a sudden you look up and this team's playing on Wednesday in Kansas City. Things break right. You should be playing Oklahoma State again, and whether that's a good matchup or not, you would still be finishing in the top half of the Big 12, something that I think everybody at the beginning of the year would have said is probably a pretty successful season.
Well, and it's not, Bob, it's not, it feels like a meltdown, but it's not to the level of like second half Trae Young season meltdown.
No, it's we haven't reached that point yet. But to what Eddie's saying, realistically, if OU loses against Texas, they're going to fall from 5th to 7th because, they can't be tied with Texas Tech, obviously with the Raiders beating them twice. So you would go from second place, a week and a half ago, to now being in one of the play-in games 2 weeks later. So it's
which Tech
pivotal,
is there right now.
Right. But if they're tied, obviously Tech's got the breaker edge there. So you can't have that. You win Thursday, you take care of a lot of problems. You go in on a high note, another big-time top 25 win. You guarantee yourself a five seed at least going into the Kansas City, but if you lose tomorrow night, it's going to be a long week in Norman.
It's kind of funny too that like even whoever plays in that 7 on Wednesday in a seeded 7th in the Big 12 tournament, you could still you could still make an argument that any of the 7 teams are in the top 7 of the Big 12 could probably make the second round of the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. That's just how it kind of reflects on how good the Big 12 is. Like, I mean, we're sitting there on Tuesday night watching Baylor and West Virginia, and West Virginia basically gave Baylor all that they wanted, and that's a team that OU beat twice somehow. Granted, the second one was in double overtime, but I don't know. I just feel like once these teams are able to step out of the Big 12, and I guess we've said this before, and Big 12 teams have fallen flat on their face. And a lot of, how far you go in the tournament is based on matchups. But I like a lot of these Big 12 teams to at least get into, the second round, if not the second weekend.
Josh, would you like to take a break from breathing into the mic like you're watching Pornhub and talk about basketball?
No, I literally just saw that message. I just slid it away right as you said.
I was not going to say anything, but I sent three DMs to the war room, like, Josh, I can hear you breathing. Josh, I can hear you breathing.
If it helps any, I didn't hear anything. So
same, nothing.
We need to get better equipment for you guys, I guess.
Or you're just overly sensitive to my breathing. For some reason, you don't like it, and clearly it doesn't bother Bob and Eddie.
Gotta go. We got to go with what the producer says on this show.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I mean, look. I think like you guys said, the one thing is the Cade Cunningham performance. You just leave that game Saturday going, holy shit! Like that guy should be playing in the NBA right now.
Without a doubt, I think that is maybe the second best performance I've seen ever at the Lloyd Noble Center from a
Michael Beasley number 1.
I'd go Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Curry had 44 on like 12 of 19. And he was 14 for 14 from the line.
Yeah, I was there. I guess
was awesome.
Yeah. I guess it was because Beasley, I mean, it was more of a physical matchup for Blake Griffin, and he just kind of got worked. But yeah, I mean, Steph Curry's performance was really. I mean, the thing about that was, Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook were sitting on the front row watching that game.
Is Russell, Jeff Green, and KD, right?
Yeah,
the famous
Jeff Green, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I still have OU Nightly video from that game on a DV. Like, not even a card, like the actual tape.
which we still have those for Sooner Scoop, for Scoop HD.
Oh, we have boxes full of them. I have them at my house.
Still?
Yeah, I have them.
Well, you need to dump those off to me.
I have shoe boxes full of them. In fact, I think there's one shoe box, and it is just Justice Hansen tape.
Oh, God.
And that's just the early years.
There might be a little Devin Thomas in there as well.
Well, look, the one thing that I noticed about watching Big 12, it was the same thing with West Virginia and Baylor, even though Baylor's been out with COVID. Everybody knows each other so well in the Big 12. These things are just disasters to watch right now. I mean, teams know they're jumping in passing lanes, they're diving for balls. It's very physical. Refs seem to be letting people play more now than they have all season. It's like a rumble every time two teams get on the floor in the Big 12 right now.
But they're playing in the 90s, which is nice. It's not like 50-50. They're still executing.
It's really too bad that, Kansas City obviously is not going to be packed, because I would imagine that the Power and Lights District combined with the Sprint Center next week in Kansas City would be quite the atmosphere.
Can we get it down to the American Airlines Arena?
Do anything you want in Texas.
Get it in Texas.
That would be cool. I like Kansas City, though. I think that's
it's great. It's a great venue
for it.
So, Baylor looks like they're kind of riding the ship a little bit. Is Kansas the next best team right now? Do they look like they're making the jump?
On court-wise, I could make the argument that Oklahoma State's playing just as well as anybody. And then they have the best player in the country.
And yet they still have to go to West Virginia and Baylor for the rest of this week. This week is just crazy.
Well, and that's the funny thing. It's like, and rightfully so. Like, Mike Boynton and everybody in Stillwater, they should get a lot of credit for what's going on up there, because it is more than just Cade Cunningham. Bryce Williams is really good. Caleb Boone's made a jump. Avery Anderson's a really good player. But,
if I'm an Oklahoma State fan, I'm a little suspect that likely didn't play in these last two games, and that's as good as they played all season.
I was surprised that he didn't play Monday night. I've seen two different things. Is it a foot or a hand?
The hand.
Okay.
It's the hand that he messed up last Monday against Tech.
But see, I look at, and this is an Olds take here, but with Likely is so ball dominant, when he's not on the floor, it makes Cade Cunningham be more involved. And it's almost like a team, almost like Kansas in '88 with Danny Manning. Like, they've got this just superstar, and they've got all these other role players that are just trying to make him, like, nobody else is really trying to dominate. And it's because Cade Cunningham is so, he is not trying to be the center of attention. Like, he's trying to get other people involved. And if people get involved and they make shots, he's like, fine. But without Likely on the floor, it's almost like he knows he has to take over a little bit more. And that's a good thing if you're Oklahoma State.
Yeah, it's like he was nowhere on Monday night, and then all of a sudden, you look up, and the guy has 13 of the last 15 points in the last 10 minutes of the game for Oklahoma State. Or I guess he had 13 of his 15 in the last 10 minutes.
He just made smart plays all the time on Monday, and when to attack, when to pass, and OU made the adjustment. They sagged when it came to the post so that he couldn't have those opportunities, and I just still think Harkless against Cunningham on perimeter was worth the price of admission alone, those back-to-back games. But, what's weird is if OU played Kansas State the way they played Bedlam, they win that game easy. And that's always going to be like, why did they have such a clunker? And they've bounced back. But now that you've lost two games where you've played well, how are you affected mentally? I think that's the one thing I'll be asking Mo and Brady here in the next hour.
Yeah, and just how does Austin Reeves move forward, as a player, and how does he integrate himself better into a team instead of just being the guy that just tries to take over? Because look, he has expanded his role. He's been the point guard. It's been good for Davion Harmon, but Davion Harmon disappeared in the game, and that shouldn't happen. He's so much better than just a guy that just fades into the background.
And he does that a lot, though. If you look throughout the season, Harmon's a first-half guy. and then like every now and then he makes a nice shot in the second half. But his role has been getting the team fired up and doing the thing in the first 20 minutes. Something I've watched a lot is I don't know if he fades into the background or what, but the second half, you usually don't say Harmon had a big second half to help the Sooners win.
I could definitely see that being a case too, that like, you know, and if OU would have been able to find a way to win on Saturday, he hit some big shots in the second half, but it's almost like, I don't want to say he gets frozen out, but then again, he doesn't necessarily get the ball a whole lot. It's like, I think that's when Austin Reeves kind of becomes almost a vacuum, if you will.
Right.
And that's, you know, if it works out, nobody says anything and everybody celebrates what Reeves able to do, but it hasn't worked out the last two games, and I think that's, you know, probably one of the reasons why they've lost.
Well, and I think, you know, it looked for a while that Kirk Weth was becoming a really, you know, important part of them defensively, and then, you know, if Manick plays well, I mean, that's the thing, like, you have to put Manick back out there now. Like, you kind of gave up on him, but you have to give him a chance. So, like, is Manick, like, does he have to go out and immediately do some positive things in order to stay on the floor?
Yes, because it doesn't carry over with Lon. What I was surprised about is that the split on Monday was 38-2 between Manick and Queth, and Walker never even touched the court.
Walker didn't deserve to touch the court after his game Saturday. I mean, that was as bad as I've seen him play.
I think Manick might have slowed down in the second half. I think he needed a breather or two, and Queth, you know, can get you a block or two, and the alley-oop dunk that's been a play that's worked the entire season. But, you know, you kind of saw the first sign, maybe a little bit of a sub tweet by Queth yesterday, just saying he can only, you know, control what he can control, as the first sign of anything that I've seen from any of the players about kind of being frustrated about playing time or what their role has been. But, you know, it's just going to be curious what these last couple of days of practice have been like, because, you know, like I said, they played well Saturday and Monday, and against most teams, you think they could at least been 1-1. Instead, they're 0-2, and then looking at 0-3, and how do they fix it going into Texas?
Well, like you said, or not like you said, but they are getting ready to play Texas before the Big 12 tournament. That game coming up on Tuesday night, and that was the one moved to ESPN, right?
I don't remember if they had a TV designation yet. Did they finally make one?
I know thought a couple of weeks ago, like a week ago or so.
I just assumed it was 8 o'clock after the Big Ten game on ESPN.
Because when it was announced Sunday, it had ESPN / The Deuce. So I'm sure they've made a designation by now. But yeah, so 8 p.m. Thursday.
Crazy.
Okay,
yeah, it's listed on Sooner Sports as ESPN, but who knows? We'll see. It's crazy that's the final regular season game.
All right. Well, outside of hoops, what's going on right now with OU football is, going through workouts. I believe it's next week. No. The end of next week, I believe we should have OU's Pro Day. From what we're told, no media will be at that. It'll just be all Zoom stuff. But obviously, we've talked about this a lot. It's going to be a really big day for a lot of people. It was curious, OU tweeted out something like these. We kind of debated this last week. They tweeted out the people that would have been invited to the Combine if there was one, and Trey Norwood was one of the guys they included.
He made the cut, making me look stupid. Still think Motley should have been there before him. That's all I'm going to say.
They're both kind of undersized guys that made a lot of plays, though. They're kind of the same person, except Motley is a better corner. Also, Josh triggered today by Chris Sims. I saw that.
Oh, am I back in the pod? This is great. Hey, how's it going, guys?
You can talk basketball if you want to talk basketball, Josh.
I have no business talking basketball. We all know it. The podcast becomes dumber for my basketball participation.
It's Chris Sims. Pretty good evaluator of talent.
I mean, guys, I don't even think this is me. I think this is anybody that has watched Kellen Mond and Justin Fields play football and comes out with Kellen Mond ahead.
It's not just Kellen Mond. He has Zach Wilson above Trevor Lawrence as well.
Yeah, that's maybe he hates Georgia kids. I don't know. Zach, like,
do you like Zach Wilson, Josh?
I do. I wouldn't say I've watched enough of him to be like, okay, I'm all in or I'm all out. Like, I like what I've seen. Trevor Lawrence, I mean, anybody knows, like, there's no question he's the number one guy for me. But at the same time, like, okay, I guess, you could get into the athleticism of Wilson and some of the things he does. And like, okay, I wouldn't be there. And I think that's kind of crazy, but fine. But Kellen Mond, who literally A&M protected by running the ball a ton and grinding out the clock because they did not trust him to make throws and do things he needed to do, and let's be honest, guys, was the benefactor of the worst SEC, talent collection, or not talent collection, but team collection in 20 years. I mean, this was not a great SEC schedule that A&M faced, and he still wasn't good enough to be like, okay, he's going to carry the day. He's going to be our guy. They were built around the run game. I don't understand the Kellen Mond fascination.
And he had a great running back, and Isaiah Spiller.
Yeah, if he can hold a clipboard for 10 years, I think that's a really successful career for Kellen Mond.
Well, he was bad in the first. I mean, he was worse than bad in the first half of the Senior Bowl, and then he actually was the most impressive I've ever seen him in the second half. But I've watched plenty of Texas A&M games, and outside of that LSU game, never saw him really make a throw down the field. He lost that big receiver that they had, and then he was just even worse after that. But, I mean, PFF says he graded higher this last year than he ever had by a little bit. I'm not impressed by him. I never have been.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where when it's all on time and everything's like it should be, he's pretty good. But, I mean, that's not, especially in the NFL, that's not the way it works. Like, you are going to get off schedule. You're going to have to go progress through your reads. I mean, a 63% passer in college football, that's not great. At Mississippi State, he threw 23 passes and completed 13 of them. I mean, LSU, he was 11 for 34 against that LSU defense.
Wow.
That's
crazy. I would love to watch how long a GM stays a GM if he drafted Zach Wilson over Trevor Lawrence. I mean, maybe Zach Wilson will have a better career than Trevor Lawrence, but you can't make that pick. You just can't.
It's indefensible.
Losing pick.
Yep. It's like we always talk about guys in recruiting, like where people are like, oh, this guy's a great player. Yeah, he's a 6'1" offensive lineman. Like, that's cool that he's great, but you have to go back and defend that. And you can defend it if the guy's 6'5" and had offers from everywhere and didn't pan out. It's pretty hard to defend the 6'1" guy that nobody else wanted. Like, what were you looking at? And if it pays off, great. You look smart. But it's really tough to defend that decision if it's wrong.
And here's the thing. If you're a good program, you just can't take a 6'1" offensive lineman because Alabama would never take a 6'1" offensive lineman because they can do better.
Guys, again, we talk about this all the time. I get these high school coaches or players or parents or whatever. They're like, well, look at Johnny. He's a great player, blah, blah, blah. He wants to play tight end at OU or Alabama or wherever. I'm like, find a guy on OU Alabama's roster that's on scholarship that has his measurables. Find me one. And you can't do it. That you get to go to North Dakota State, and that's great. That's good football. But like, that's where you lose the realism. Like, you have to have some ability to be objective about that to make to make informed decisions or evaluations.
Do you think that Alex Grinch, if he were in place, he would have just passed on Buki?
No question. They don't take Buki.
Yeah.
I mean, Josh, I don't even know if they would have recruited him.
No, I don't think there's a chance, Eddie. I don't think there's a chance in hell that he gets recruited at 5'8", 5'9". Because guys, it's one thing. Like, okay, Tyrann Mathieu is a good example. Tyrann Mathieu, I don't know what his combine measurements was, but he's 5'9", 5'10", something like that. But he's real long. Like, he's got long arms, long legs. So maybe you could get there on him. Buki's like compact. Like, he's solid. Like, he's a kind of fire plug type of guy. And that's fine, but people get caught up in the height, and don't get me wrong, like, Grinch wants big guys, but if you've got length, you can make up for some of that. Like, Trey Brown has some length to him. Parnell Motley, no bigger than he was, very long-armed guy. So, like, I know he didn't recruit either one of those guys, but I'm just trying to say, like, you don't have to be 6'2". But if you have some length and you can get into passing lanes and you can do some of the things that they are looking for, they can overlook some of the other stuff. But that's not Buki has nothing to do with what OU's looking for at defensive back.
Which it just goes back to your point. Like, a guy could be a 5-star. It's not about being a scrappy high school player that's better than other people because even regardless of his height, like. You could be a 5-star and be 5'9", and you're not going to get recruited as a defensive back at Oklahoma. They just don't want. That goes against the foundation of what they believe in, which is length. Because, and why do they believe that? Because go back to that Iowa State game that everybody was mad at Buki about. He could not cover Charlie Kohler in the end zone.
Absolutely.
That's exactly why you don't. That's why you want to recruit length.
Yeah, the guys. Length and speed. Look at what they're doing at wide receiver. They didn't get rid of Leek Brown because he's big. They got him because he can fly. They want speed or they want length, and whether it's on either side of the ball. But Grinch is clearly hard and fast. There's no real exceptions to these rules. But you look at even guys that have been fairly productive under Grinch. Jaden Davis wouldn't be recruited by Oklahoma right now. Like he doesn't fit what they want to be. But that doesn't mean that he can't be a useful player.
And it's crazy to say this too, but if you have length and they don't really know that you have blazing speed, like they'll go with the length, they'll go with the measurables. Just like Alabama, they go with measurables. If you're questionable athletically compared to maybe a guy let's say you're an offensive tackle and you're 6'6", 6'5", 6'6". But you're not as athletic as maybe a 6'2" guy. You'll go with the 6'5", 6'6" guy.
Yeah,
because of measurables.
Yeah, it's something you can quantify. Especially right now, guys. Like I think it's more important than ever that because they can't go see these guys. So if there's any way that they can say, I know this guy is big enough, he'll fit what I want him to be. Then that's a huge check in a year when it otherwise, might not be. Like a good example is, like some of these defensive linemen you'll see that you're like, yeah, he's really good, but on tape he looks like he's probably 6'2". The guy on tape that is clearly 6'4", 6'5", big, long, lanky guy, that guy's got to shoot. He's got a leg up right now. He just does, and that's fair, not fair. I don't really know how you want to look at that, but that is the way it is because it's one less thing you have to wonder about and not know in this era, last year of recruiting that is just pure, guesswork. It's patchwork at best.
Which is why it's been interesting, all the praise that's been harped on Buki from Grinch and Lincoln Riley. And now we're 4 weeks removed from entering the portal and still nothing. And we know why that is. It's because he's such a good guy in the locker room. Like for all the shortcomings he has as a player, they know he makes them better from a culture standpoint. And I get that.
I think it goes even further too, just as far as there's no reason to badmouth a guy that has a brand like Buki does. Like Buki's, I would assume if a kid asked Buki about what his experience been like in Norman, he's going to be very glowing about it. And I think that it might not reach a whole lot of kids, but I'm sure that there's kids that grow up in California or wherever nationally that are going to look to him and kind of take his advice, whether it's good or whether that's the right thing or the wrong thing to do.
The one thing that I like about Lincoln Riley, the thing that I find, a real positive about him as a coach is, one, we all kind of see people go through this. We go through this ourselves. It's like I went through that this morning thinking about the J.J. Watt deal. Like, okay, an NFL team can no longer afford to retire a jersey because they might miss out on a free agent in the future whose jersey number is also their brand. Like J.J. Watt, 99 is his brand. Like, it's bigger than just a player. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, God, that's so stupid. And, the old in me is like, that's so dumb, that they got to unretire a jersey. But you have to think about it in those terms. Like, it's just a different age, and you have to bend a little bit. You can't just be old school on everything. And Lincoln does bend on things. I mean, he's done it through recruiting. He's done it through, like Zach Heffley and his video staff and made that a priority. But I also do think that there's a part of Lincoln that holds on to some old school stuff. And he throws, it's just like the locker room thing with Buki. It's like, that is a football coach's, vision. Like, that's how a real football coach thinks. And he's not so worried. Like, there are times when he puts his foot down and says, I have to be a little old school about this. Like, this is a core value that I believe in. And he hasn't really lost track of some of that stuff, as new age as he can be at times.
Yeah, it's kind of like we talked about before. I mean, I think that sometimes we forget that Lincoln Riley is a guy from West Texas, Muleshoe. It's like he still has some very based principles, but he also gets it. And I think that it's obvious why he's become what he is today.
All right, our good friends over at Dead Soxy, big fans of the podcast and big fans of you guys because you have been knocking it out of the park, ordering your Dead Soxy stuff. Appreciate you guys sending stuff to us or tag us on social media. Let us know if you're big fans of the Boardroom series or the No Show series. And Eddie, there's a reason why people should be big fans of Dead Soxy because their socks are just fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's 70 degrees in Oklahoma City, so I'm wearing shorts today. And I will be wearing the cutoff shot, the no-show socks all day. And I might not take them off until probably when it gets cold again. So, and even then, you could switch over. So it's perfect scenario for anybody that's trying to wear the no-show socks, especially in Oklahoma at this time of the year.
And as a listener of this podcast, we have a special promo code for you. Just use the promo code BOOMER at checkout, and you'll get 30% off your entire order. The promo code, again, is BOOMER. Get you some of those high-quality socks. And like Eddie said, with the temperatures heating up, you're going to want some comfortable socks, and these are those, especially even if maybe you got to get back out in the office and you just want something to feel like your feet are on pillows. The Boardroom collection is fantastic. They got the no-slip silicone beads in the welt that prevent that slippage so you won't feel like your ankles are in quicksand. So go check them out. Dead Soxy, DeadSoxy.com. Use that promo code BOOMER for 30% off. And as always, stay Soxy. All right, outside of that, Josh, let's just hit a little recruiting here. Of course, you went down and spoke to Demetrius Hunter, I think, 2-3 days before he made his announcement, his commitment?
Yeah, I went on Saturday, and he announced yesterday morning.
So you knew that he was committing to Oklahoma. I mean, he showed up in an OU shirt that he had specially made, which I gave Josh crap for because he took a photo of him, one photo, and cut off the shirt, so we couldn't even see it. So,
well, if it makes you feel even worse, I took about 20 photos just to make sure I got the one I wanted, the right, him looking right, the whole thing. And then I left, and I was like, I guess I should have gotten one that was a little more panned out because I just literally took it from where I was standing to shoot the video. But let's not pretend that was the biggest debacle of the trip to Orange, Texas. That damn camera wire, I don't know how that happened. So that's one I'm pretty proud of.
I'm trying to figure out.
I was scared to say anything.
Me too.
I know.
I was scared to say anything when it showed up.
I see, and you can tell from Carrie's reaction. Carrie has not watched the video. Carrie, so
See, here's what I did.
That's okay.
I started
watching
watching the video, and then your damn mic made noise when you were going back and forth, and I had to stop watching because I don't want to be freaking equipment Nazi and just like, why can't you fix your mic?
I don't know.
Or tell me that it can't be fixed and I'll buy a new one.
I don't know. I don't even know what you're talking about right now. We can circle. Like, I know you brought this up before.
A noise.
We can circle back to
like
this.
When,
it's for holding the receiver on the bottom instead of like holding the mic. I think it just gets a little.
The connection comes undone because you really do have to press that in hard, and I don't think you pushed it in hard enough.
Okay. We can talk about that. The bigger problem
just
is
for
a
the audience,
cord
these are the things
through the screen.
Yeah, the I know what you're talking about, the cable cord.
Yep. So what happened? And I really had to I had to think about like how the hell did this, because it's never happened to me.
See, I'm just trying not to be triggered, and I'm trying not to be that guy. But you're making
you are
me
that
be
guy.
that
You
guy.
have to be who you are. You have to be who you are. You are that guy.
Drove
and this
all
one,
that way to go
yeah,
do
this
an
one
interview,
is totally
an
fair.
exclusive interview
with the girls.
With the girls in tow.
The girls in tow. They were in the truck. And this is, normally I give you shit. This is a fair grievance. This is a fair, what the hell are you doing here, Josh? I don't know how I didn't notice. I still don't understand. So we had set up inside of this building, and I was kind of like, it's kind of dark in here. Maybe we should go, because they kind of wanted to do it in there. He had these jerseys all set out. He had this really nice thing, but I was like, it's dark. This is going to come out funny. Why don't we move outside? And what am I doing? I'm trying to get I'm like, Carrie, it's going to be dark. Nobody's going to like this. Like, I'm thinking about it. So
yeah,
I have the whole thing
Although
set
Eddie
up.
will tell you that camera that you have is excellent in low light if you know how to use it right, but you probably don't.
we know
We're
I
just
don't.
going to have a motherfucking boot camp for equipment. We're just going to have to do that. I mean, everybody's going to have to come here for a weekend, and we're just going to, because everybody's getting new stuff, and that's coming. So, I mean,
this sounds awful.
It's coming, and there's going to be lights and microphones and booms and all this shit, and you're going to have to know how to work it.
Speaking of, Tiffany saw the light thing that you put up on Facebook or something, and she was like, what is that? And I was like, I don't know what that is. She goes, did we buy that? I was like, I'm sure that we did.
Did we buy that?
Well, I mean, she meant the site. And I was like, yeah, the site bought that. I don't know what that is. I don't know anything about that. So,
see, and I take advantage of the fact that you're ignorant of things because I can just buy whatever I want, and you don't know what it is.
It's terrible.
But it's very much needed, and I'm going to use it to go take photos that we've talked about today because we don't have a Cooper Alexander photo, and we need one. But
let it be said, Tiffany doesn't miss shit on Facebook, so be real careful what you put up there, because she notices.
I am not running purchase orders past Tiffany, okay? That's not happening.
It's not that. She will bring it to me, is all I'm saying. I won't miss that. Facebook, you could post anything for years, and I'd be like, I have no idea that's there. I don't notice anything on Facebook, but she is a Facebook
I'm going to start inventing
lurker.
things like I adopted a child just to mess with her.
Carrie adopted a child? Like right now, I just got a notice from her, like one of my family members may have been in a car accident. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't know anything about that. I'm sure it's from Facebook. So anyway, let's get back to Demetrius Hunter if we at all can get this back on track.
Let's just say if immigration, you have any problems locating families, I'm open to adopting.
That's really sweet. Carrie as a single father, that's a sitcom waiting to happen.
That's it.
Actually,
yes.
I just think that's the next wave in NFT is underground black market for babies. So getting in early.
You just have a part instead of like actually having the child. Oh, here it is. Show everybody the picture. It's like a 3D thing.
What would you call that? Crypto trafficking, probably. Not sex.
I don't know. I'm sure Epstein will be in charge of it, though.
All right, I'm sorry. I derailed this. No more NFT talk. Josh.
No. I took this off the rails. It just kept rolling farther off. But no, going out to see him, Demetrius Hunter, like I said, I hadn't seen him in person before, and I told him when I got out there, guys, do you know the last time Oklahoma landed somebody from the Golden Triangle out there in the Beaumont, Port Arthur, Orange area?
Are we going?
Was Trey Franks and James Haynes.
Yeah, I was thinking those two exactly.
I knew that's who that was.
That's insane, guys.
James
the
Haynes
amount
didn't
of
last
talent.
too long.
No, and and I still
Franks
remember
left and then came back and finished, which was remarkable.
Yeah, and Trey was like the slowest fast guy I've ever seen in my whole life. Like that guy legitimately was like 10-4, 100-meter fast, and you never once saw him bust a big play at OU. Like you kept thinking like, are you running yet? Like, is this going to happen?
He stumbled too much.
Oh, brutal to watch.
They tried to make him the kickoff returner.
Turf monster.
Yeah, I mean, they tried to make him didn't just try, they forced him to be a kick returner, and he never did jack.
Yeah, and they were thinking like, surely this is like Forrest Gump. Like in the worst case scenario, if he'll just run a straight line, nobody's going to catch him every once in a while, and it just never happened. But anyway, so getting to see him up close, about 6'3", big guy, real, he is the Bill Bedenbaugh. This is, and I saw Gabe Eichert tweet, like, they've come a long way from having to recruit tight ends. Yeah, this is not a guy that's going to have to put on weight once he gets to campus. He's going to have to probably lean out a little bit, kind of add some muscle and that kind of thing. But it's not a big deal. But he's probably carrying a little bit of bad weight that he'll need to lean out. But, just being around him, really great kid. I loved his quote during the interview, and I kind of asked him about him being cousins with Earl Thomas, and he was like, "Oh no, it's all Boomer Sooner, horns down, whole thing." So I mean, he's a kid that's embraced it. But I thought it was interesting, and guys, I would be interested to hear your take on this. It's been something that's going on more and more in this class is that, well, the NCAA has bumped back. Obviously, the dead period, it's extended longer, and so now I want to go ahead and make my decision. I'm like, I don't know that I understand how those two things connect. Now, I get the deciding early because I think this is going to be a really small class nationwide. Like, there's not going to be as many D1 signees as we're used to seeing. So I get it on that level, but how that connects to the end of the dead period, I don't understand that at all. I can't figure out why that would – I would think it would be the opposite, not that way.
I think they're worried they don't know when it's going to open. And then they don't know if it's going to open when their high school season's going on. And I don't know if they want to make visits during the high school season. Now, that used to be the norm, right? You'd make your 5 visits during 5 weekends during the high school season. But that's not how these guys know the process since they've opened it up.
If they go ahead, Bob. Sorry.
Yeah. I was just like, so this is their reality. This is what they know. They know they should have been able to go in the winter and the spring. And now they're being told no, and I don't know if they want to do all 5 within like 3-month period.
If they push back the recruiting period or the dead period even further, Division I coaches should march on Indianapolis because that would be the most ridiculous thing in the entire world.
I'd love to see Ed Ogeron trying to break down the doors like an insurrection.
That'd be fucking awesome.
I'd love to ask
it's ridiculous that they pushed it back to begin with.
I'd love to ask Pat Fields since he's on the committee for this, but I seriously think we're never going to get that chance. But
can you imagine enraged?
It's not the NCAA; it's that committee that's
the
telling
oversight
them.
committee.
Can you imagine enraged Matt Campbell at the NCAA offices? Like, tell him that they just missed an offsides call. Get him fired up. Okay, so Demetrius Hunter in. Good job going there after that. No credit whatsoever, Josh.
Hey, real quick on Demetrius. Is his body style a little bit like, and he's obviously not as tall. Does he have a little Marquise Hayes in him, just from a wide body?
Yeah, he's real broad. Yeah. Kind of, Kerry, and Eddie, I don't know. I mean, I know you'll remember him, but I don't know if you were ever around him. Kind of reminds me of Vince Carter, Kerry, kind of same, kind of long-armed, kind of real big, broad-chested kind of guy.
Nice birthing hips.
Yeah. Just, kind of those guys like, he just big. Just big everywhere. Just a big dude. And I was concerned, like, kind of we were talking about on, earlier, you watch guys on tape and you're like, man, is he 6'1", 6'2"? How big is he? He's 6'3". He was clearly a couple inches taller than me. I think he told me 6'4". But I thought it was interesting also him talking about having conversations with, Orlando Brown and Creed Humphrey. And I think it's, Creed, you kind of understand it, but Orlando, it continues to impress me how much he kind of helps Oklahoma being gone for, 3 years now. He still does his part and will connect with guys, just kind of, I guess giving his 2 cents.
Yeah, I think with Orlando, it's kind of like passing it on for what Jamal Brown did for him. He kind of sees that, like he appreciated that so much that he kind of wants to be that for other young guys, which is really cool.
And I'm sure he appreciates that OU took the chance, because we all know he wasn't supposed to academically qualify.
Yeah. He's just a good dude. Okay, let me ask you. I know a lot of people are wondering this because when things like this happen, everyone makes a big deal out of it. But Kendal Daniels ends up signing, I guess you could say, with OSU. They released him just like he was a member of their signing day class with their Tecmo Bowl stuff. But Josh, maybe just kind of, if you could break down what it was about Oklahoma's views of Kendal Daniels and why that thing never really materialized, either before he went to A&M or after he left.
Well, before it was pretty cut and dry. I think Oklahoma wanted him to be a linebacker. I don't think that's what he was comfortable with. And I think, and Oklahoma, I think was willing to kind of have that conversation. But at the same time, Oklahoma was trying to work out numbers. And like we talked about all last season, they were not going to go, after a bunch of guys they didn't know. They wanted to have a pretty clear picture of what that 2021 class was going to look like. And they kind of gave him a deadline, and he went past it. And Oklahoma even gave him some time beyond that deadline. And finally they were just like, you know what, we're going to move on. We're going to do something else. And I know for people outside of it, there gets to be well, why would you do that? Nobody else took that spot. And I don't even disagree with that necessarily. But that was just kind of what they felt they wanted to do. They felt they'd given him enough time. They'd sold him on everything. And there was always this, OU's not communicating with him a lot. And when I would talk to people, the argument was on the other side of the fence. Like maybe he's not communicating with Oklahoma enough. So I think there was just some wires that got crossed, and Oklahoma just kind of decided to wash their hands. This time around, I got the impression Oklahoma was interested. I don't think they felt like they had enough time to kind of make sure the numbers were going to work, do the due diligence, all the stuff that they wanted to do, and then really kind of get involved with him. Because by the time I got the impression they had really spoken with the staff at Beggs, had finally, I believe, gotten in touch with him on Saturday afternoon. Was it Sunday? Okay. It was the day before he actually announced. So he announced on Monday. Bob's right. It was Sunday. They had been in touch with him, and I think at that point his mind was pretty much made up. Like there really wasn't much to do. And, you get it. His teammate, his buddy, C.J. Brown's going to go to Oklahoma State. They get to have that connection. Beggs has got several other players that could be headed in that direction at some point or another. It's a really talented roster right now. So, like I said, I don't think this time it was a closed door. I think Oklahoma just didn't have enough time to kind of put it together, and it sounded like once he left A&M, it was going to be tough for it to be anybody but OSU, honestly.
And you give credit to Mike Gundy. He reached out Friday afternoon. He did what you're supposed to do. If you're a recruit and you want to know that you're wanted, that's exactly how Mike Gundy approached that situation.
Absolutely. Gundy was the first head coach he talked to. I was even told LSU made a fairly sincere pass at him. So this is a guy, like I said, Kendal Daniels is an interesting conversation because it's kind of like what we talked about, guys. Physically, he's long, he's athletic. He almost exactly is what Oklahoma has talked about wanting, but at the same time, where does he really fit on that defense? Like, I don't know. what to me the best argument is nickelback, and that's only because I know that's what they were telling the Dasan McCullough kid that's now headed to Ohio State in the 2022 class, who's about 6'3", 6'4", and 215 pounds, very similar to Kendal Daniels. And if you see him in that way, okay, sure, Kendal Daniels could do the same things. I got no problem with that. But he's not really a linebacker. I don't think he moves like a safety in the way Oklahoma wants. So I don't know. It's just an interesting. He will be a very interesting guy to watch, because I think Oklahoma is either going to be completely vindicated or going to look really silly on it. I'm not sure which one it's going to be.
There's also the possibility that they look really silly and then it works out for Oklahoma, where maybe they just had some better players, or they're
Sure.
okay at that position.
Sure, because if you look at it,
that if I had to guess.
If you were going to bet on, the guy, if you were going to say one guy took, his scholarship, you'd probably argue it's Billy Bowman. And I've got pretty good confidence. I don't know if Billy Bowman's going to be an All-American, but I'd be shocked if Billy Bowman's not a really good player.
Okay, since you were gone last week, Josh, we didn't have a chance really to break down. We really didn't talk much recruiting last week at all. But I don't think we've talked about Jason Llewellyn since he committed, Joe Jon Finley's first signing, or at least commitment at Oklahoma. I'm sure that's a guy that you've seen, many times covering Alito as much as you have over the years, or maybe you haven't. But what is this guy's athleticism? Maybe tell us about what OU is looking at tight end right now with Joe Jon Finley in charge.
Well, it's a guy that the thing that sticks out to me when I watch him, and I know this isn't going to, wow all the listeners, dude's an awesome blocker. I mean, he is very good at that. He is going to play a huge role for Oklahoma. If you told me that he could do a lot of the same things you see from Braden Willis, completely believe that. Now, at the same time, you watch him, and he's got some plays, including, I think, in the semifinal game, where he makes an unbelievable one-handed catch. I mean, this isn't, and no offense, this isn't a guy like Brody Eldridge. It's okay, you block. Just block and do that, and you're going to – I mean, no offense, but we know what Brody's game was.
I think Brody would tell you that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a tight end that literally broke his neck in college.
Yeah. I mean –
he did what he did.
And became an offensive lineman, and a pretty damn good one.
Yeah, and he kept playing after he broke his neck.
Oh, that's so offensive lineman. That's the kind of stuff, that just makes me so proud, the group. But anyway, we won't get into that.
I was going to say, his dad?
Yeah, I know. I mean, every offensive lineman, I mean, it's just a brother. It's a brotherhood. That's what it is. So even not good ones like myself.
They know you're in the club?
No, they don't. They don't give a shit even if I think I do. So, but no, Llewellyn's a guy that, and I was thinking about this when he committed. I was like, of course. The first year in 3 years I haven't seen an Alito game is the year that OU lands a dude. So, I mean,
there's a fair amount of PTSD involved in that, so maybe give you a pass on that one.
Oh, there's no question when people are like, do you think he's going to stick, Josh? I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. Everything in Alito is terrifying. But no, like I said, I like the kid a lot. I think I think, and we had something in Woke this morning. People that, aren't members, hit me up, josh@soonerscoop.com, make an offer for you. But for those that have read it in Woke, I think Oklahoma is not done at tight end. I think there is absolutely a chance they are going to kind of cast a guy like Llewellyn with a more of a flex type of guy. And like I said, Llewellyn can play that role. I think people are underrating him athletically. I think he's a good athlete. But to me, his best game is going to be when he lines up off tackle and he can either, seal that edge and pick up a linebacker, or he can go out in a pass route and kind of be that complete tight end. I think that's where he's the most versatile. He makes your offense the most difficult to contend with. So I like him a lot. I mean, I think it was a really good evaluation. You look at how he kind of blew up over the course of a couple of weeks there. I think his stock is, I guess you could say, either is or was going to continue to go up. depending on how you want to look at it, whether rankings or offers or whatever. But he's a good find, and obviously at a great program where Oklahoma needs to get in the door there in whatever way. Just kind of soothe whatever was amiss there, kind of at the end of the Jason McClellan situation.
And Jason's gonna be liked a lot because he was supposed to be visiting Texas the day he committed to OU. So that's something the fan base will appreciate for sure. Because he told the coaches Thursday night, he announced it Friday morning, but as of Wednesday of that week, he was supposed to be taking a trip to Austin. So things change very quickly, and OU fans will love that it's a little shot against Texas.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that he held a Texas offer, if I'm not mistaken, like a week longer, something like that, than his OU offer. I mean, this is a guy that OU fans should love because he wasted no time jumping on that OU offer. I think it was 5 days, like Monday, and then committed on Friday, or like Bob said, Thursday night. So, several Texas experts had him headed to Oklahoma, to Texas. So it's a nice win for OU. There's no doubt about it.
Outside of that, just give us kind of a general breakdown of the latest, what's going on, any big offers that really have kind of stood out to you that have gone out in this past couple of weeks?
Well, I mean, I guess the one you want to talk about right now, just because it's timely, is just literally about the time we started the podcast. Austin Jordan announced his top 3 of Oklahoma, Texas, and Ohio State, I believe. Yeah. And this is a guy, DB out of Denton Ryan, high school teammates with Billy Bowman. And it feels kind of like an OU Texas battle, but I've talked to several people as of late, and there is definitely a OU feels like they're pulling ahead in this thing a little bit. Now, and people will be like, well, yeah, he's at Denton and they've got a teammate. The Denton ISD has not been great to OU through the years. They have not landed a lot of guys at Geyer or Ryan, and they've recruited a ton of them, and it's been tough to do so. Billy Bowman was kind of the first time they've really gotten over that hump. So I think that is really a story to kind of watch. Gentry Williams put out his top 6 yesterday. OU was obviously in it. I think OU would be very happy if that was their cornerback class, Austin Jordan and Gentry Williams together. And I guess you could call Ish Harris a recent offer, and he put out a top 6 that had OU in it. Kind of an interesting guy. I'm not sure where he is for OU because he's kind of a recent offer. He's kind of like what we talked about with Kendal Daniels, kind of a guy that's I'm not sure where he fits. I think he's probably a nickel, but he's talked about speaking to Brian Odom, which makes you think linebacker. There's a lot to track there. And I know a lot of people have asked me about the offer list breakdown. I have been working on that I started that like while I was on vacation. I was just working on it kind of slowly but surely. And every time I about get it done, a new offer will go out or something will happen, and I keep having to kind of catch up. It should have been out like Tuesday, and instead I'll probably get it out tomorrow morning. But, yeah, there are I think since the last one I did, there's almost 40 offers on this list. OU has gotten very excited with their offers, especially in 2023, where you can tell they're starting to kind of set up, the groundwork for that class.
Outside of that, I know you've had some thoughts on state and 2023 and things like that, but you mentioned along with Cooper Alexander in kind of one of your latest updates, like there's 3 legit 2023 tight ends that have multiple offers. Like the state of Oklahoma as a tight end factory is a thing.
Well, and like I said, I mean, I tweeted it out earlier, and I have said this for a long time. The state, if there's any position where you could say OU does, or the state of Oklahoma does a really good job of putting out talent, it's tight end. I mean, you go back to Cooper's dad, Steven Alexander. You've got, guys like Ricky Brady. You've got Jermaine Gresham. I mean, you go down the list. Look at guys that played at OSU. Marcellus Wall. I mean, there are some really, not Marcellus Wallace. Who am I thinking of? The kid that played in the early 2000s, and I made the the kid from Douglas, and I'm just going to blank on his name. That doesn't matter. long track record, a lot of good tight ends.
Not Marcus Wiley. I know who you're talking about. He's the guy that Derek Strait knocked the pass away from.
Yes, that's exactly who it is. Yep, and I can't think of him. Even at Tulsa, Garrett Mills, who went on to play in the NFL for a while. Marcel, that's exact. I was like Marcellus Wallace. I'm showing my love of Pulp Fiction there, but
Pulp Fiction, yep,
yep, exactly. But anyway, but yeah, so I mean, it's always been really good. And then in 2023, you've got Luke Haas from Bixby, that's just a monster. I can't wait to see him either this spring or at some 7-on-7 stuff. He is must-see guy for me this year. And then in 2024, we've already talked about Cooper Alexander at Norman High, and then there is also the Wood. Is it Connor Wood? I'm getting used to his name. Of course, I'm gonna lead all into this and be wrong about his name. But at Tulsa Union, that is a big-time kid. Lane Wood, yep. So really liked him. Somebody recommended to him, kind of watched his tape. Really athletic guy. Kind of looks like a flex tight end in the future. But, I mean, both Alexander and Wood don't have offers yet. Obviously has a whole bunch of them. With those two, though, I mean, I think those are Power 5 guys.
R.J. Jackson fits into the picture.
That's going to be the really interesting one, because I keep talking to people out there. They're like, oh, he's grown. He's gotten bigger. He's like 6'4" now. If he's 6'4", he could play tight end at a lot of places. I mean, he is super, super talented. But my question is, every time I've seen him, I had him more like 6'2"-ish. And if that's the case, that's fine. But that's more of an H-back kind of you're not going to be seen in the same way as a recruit, even if he is as good a natural receiver as there is in the state. I mean, I know Eddie, Bob, you guys have seen him live. I loved him when I saw him. I mean, this is a tremendously talented dude. I just don't know if he's going to physically check all the boxes to move into that level of elite, 4-star type player that I think these other three may have a chance to be, because they do have that size. Like we said earlier, you've got to check that box, and the more boxes you check, the higher you're going to be recruited. And right now, to me, his height, his length is the question mark. And if I go see him in the spring and he's 6'4", man, there's not a lot I can knock him for. I mean, and I hate to say it like that, because that's not what you want to do, but that, again, you're having to check these boxes. And if he has the size, then, like I said, I think he could stand up with any tight end in the state.
And you're also talking about kind of the difference, and this might be a terrible analogy, but it's almost the difference between, and I'm not discrediting what he did, but like a Dimitri Flowers type, as opposed to like, somebody with size, like an O.J. Howard. And I know that scale is kind of wide, but that's just how it is, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, like,
if you that he's supposed to be a great baseball player too.
Yes, and then that's a huge question with him, because I mean I've heard that it's gonna he could be a guy that's a big bonus type guy someday in the MLB draft. So we'll have to see what factor that plays for him. But yeah, I mean, like I said, he's clearly very gifted. To me, it's just a question of, does he have a true position, and if he does, is it a premier enough position to warrant a lot of the attention? Guys like we talked about it. Eddie, you mentioned Dimitri Flowers, but prior to committing to Oklahoma, when he got a late offer from the Sooners, he was committed to Boise State. I mean, you're not talking about a guy that like had all these huge chances, and Dimitri Flowers is as good a fullback H-back as OU has had in this whole, probably in the last 30 years of Oklahoma football, much less, you want to get down to all the other guys in the different eras, that's fine. But, I mean, for a guy that could do what you needed to do in that role, he was unbelievable.
I'm getting ready to kind of start getting out and taking pictures of some of these younger guys. Josh, do you and Bob need to get together to work on what poses I should put them in? Because that's always a fun point of contention with you two.
Now, they're teammates, back to back.
I was fixing to say, the one we're talking about, Eddie, or Carrie, there's teammates, so you got to do the back-to-back. They got to be looking at the camera.
Got to do wingspan.
Well, see, now that one doesn't bother me. That one has evaluation principles. I'm okay with
I
that.
gotta buy damn footballs, which is just adding to the. Tiffany will not approve that.
Oh, don't put it on Facebook. She doesn't listen to the pod. It's going to be fine.
I actually did look up footballs today. Those fucking things are expensive.
Hell yes, they are. Just make sure they're Jordan brand. I mean, we don't, we got to stick with dry fit.
See, I can find Nike, but I can't find. I don't think they make Jordan brand footballs. I think even I need to go back and look at pictures, but I think even like in the games they're Nike footballs.
For shame, Oklahoma.
Maybe they do get the Jordan brand put on. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. We haven't actually been at games up close. I forget these things. Maybe we'll come back. By the way, that is interesting. Alabama, Texas, and Texas A&M all saying 100%.
Well, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't it be?
Because the world is crazy.
I mean, you know who the biggest idiots in the entire world are right now are the fucking Thunder. What are they doing?
They're being the Thunder, which is super careful, community-minded.
So stupid.
What did I miss? I've clearly missed something.
The Thunder
here.
are not going to allow fans this season at all.
Season.
Yeah.
So you can go to a football game, you can go to a basketball game for any of the colleges here, but you can't go to a Thunder game? It just doesn't make any sense.
Guys, this goes back to the early days of this whole thing. Why do people keep making these unilateral decisions like 6 months in advance? Like, let it play out.
When information is changing daily.
Yeah, like, just let it be. Like, you can say next month, next, few weeks for the foreseeable future. Leave it open-ended. Why do you keep drawing these lines in the sand for a time frame the information's moving way too fast for you to be like, yep, hard and fast. We know that won't work.
Well, I'll say this, I think I was worried just for my parents because they're supposed to get their second shot, and their day was like yesterday, and it came and went, and they got an email saying, we don't have the vaccines to give the shots, just stay tuned, and we'll let you know. And then they got an email the very next day saying, okay, your second shots are on Thursday. So even with all the crap that's been going on in Texas, it does seem like they're kind of recovering and able to get the vaccines again. So, I mean, I'm just telling that story. The point, like, we don't know how quickly this is going to move, but it's been moving pretty well. I mean, it's going pretty fast.
It definitely seems like it's starting to turn the corner of getting better. Not just like everybody's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know if maybe it's just everybody's figuring out the system at this point or what it is.
And look, I think people have been cooped up long enough that as long as you have the ability to get the vaccine and you get it, like people, I think the majority of people are like, we just have to be able to live our lives. Like once we're vaccinated, if people are still dying, like if I die, like that just has to be what it is. Like we just have to get back to something close to normal. Otherwise, it's going to be a revolt.
Yeah.
And I think, sports is part of that. Like, you've got to just finally open it up and just say, look, we're going. We're doing this.
This is a risk, like, again, and if it's with the vaccinations, if it gets cut down in the way they hope it will, I mean, sure, and it's terrible that there still will be people that are going to catch it and get one of these variations and have problems. But at some point, there has to be, okay, this is a risk we're willing to accept.
And right now, it sounds like May could be the date when everybody could have gotten it, which means, you could go into June, but into June, you're looking at everybody that wanted to be vaccinated was. And to be honest with you, I don't know how I'll feel about it because we all know I've been basically a shut-in this entire time. But I go out. I go out. I wear a mask. I'm not afraid. I grocery shop on my own now. We joked about that a while back. But like once I have the vaccine, I'm not so concerned about if you have it or not. I'm not going to be that dude. Like I'm just going to go live my life.
Well, welcome
like
you
I
back
said,
when that time comes. I've been living my life for a while now.
Eddie just has like a welcome sign.
Yeah, but you wear masks and shit like that, Eddie. I mean,
Oh yeah. I have no problem with that. That's the other thing. It's like everybody's up in arms about Texas and Louisiana and all these places opening. It's like I'm pretty sure the people that live in those states are gonna wear the ones that want to wear a mask are gonna wear a mask.
the people that are commenting don't live there, because we all know, even in Oklahoma, people either wear masks or they don't, and you run across plenty of people, depending on what you go to. Maybe not even grocery stores. I mean, every time I go to the grocery store, I see entire families that won't wear masks.
Oh, guys, our babysitter is a truther. She is very proud to walk into grocery stores and be like, I dare them to say something. I'm like, don't be that way.
Yeah.
I mean, and she's telling this to Tiffany, who has to wear one of those humongous masks all day, every day, comes home with like marks on her face. I'm like, how can you look at her and be like, I can't wear a little cloth mask? Like, how do you do that? But that's a whole other thing. But yeah, I mean, that's my whole.
Do you ever think of
like,
maybe getting a different babysitter?
No, well, we love her. Our girls love her. We're like, fine, it's fine. Like, she's really, like, this is like her one thing. We're like, that came out of left field. We did not foresee this. But she's been our babysitter for like, I don't know, 3 years. So we're kind of in now. But, you know, the thing, you know, obviously living in Texas and everybody freaked out yesterday. Oh, they're not going to wear masks. I'm like, guys, outside of Houston and probably Austin, I drive around most of the state a lot, and I see plenty of people that don't give a shit about any mask mandate. Because I mean, it's not like they're arresting people for not wearing them. So if you don't want to wear them, people just don't wear them.
I go to Dunkin' once a month. I've never seen someone wearing a mask the last 2 times I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a Taco Tico run?
It's a bank / Taco Tico run, yes.
Yeah.
You mean Taco Tico / bank? Like,
well,
you can be.
I need
okay.
to have money to go to Taco Tico.
So sometimes the bank's first.
The bank is definitely the first stop, but then I just happen to go to Tico afterwards. Because I found out, it's like, I live in a small town bank, and like it takes them like 9 days if I go to like a credit union center to clear my check. So I had to start just driving it directly to the bank. It's ridiculous. So I need to change banks, like Josh needs to change babysitters.
Yes, yes to both. That's totally.
Or
fine.
I need to come up with direct deposit.
That also works. I think all 3 other members of this pod would totally support that.
See,
action.
I freely spend money when it comes to lighting and cameras, but when it comes to business expenses like direct deposit, I'm like, no, we don't need that.
Mm-mm. No, who wants that?
But now that I'm driving to Dunkin' every month, I think I might get it.
This is how change happens, guys. You're hearing it.
So anyway, anything else that you guys wanted to jump on before we get out of here today? I know Bob's got to get on the basketball Zoom. He might be gone already.
I'm here.
Okay.
No, I mean,
I'm thinking.
Were there any thoughts as far as the Joe Jon Finley contract details? I guess I was a little surprised that he's getting $500,000. Or is that just the going rate?
I think that's kind of become the going rate. Like, it's no longer the $200,000 show for assistant coaches, but which coming out of a pandemic, it is kind of like, oh, wow, that's a fair amount. He better recruit well at that pay scale.
So far, so good, I'd say. There's been no movement as far as spring ball announcements, though. I mean, I guess they're just trying to get through pro day, and then they'll worry about spring ball.
I think we're looking at that 22nd through the 26th for when spring ball will start. It might even start that Sunday.
So they are still going to look at probably that would put spring game if they have it, which I would imagine that they're going to try to have something. Probably late April. Still going to.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
I would probably say like the 25th or 24th would be a pretty good date.
That wouldn't be bad.
Maybe don't schedule anything too permanent there. I'll start checking around on that and see if there's any chance that the spring game
Whatever
might
they
not
do, I
happen.
think they should go back to Friday night. I love that.
That was fantastic. They should absolutely see if they did that. Then they could have it on the 30th. So maybe that would be a something that they could consider.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is going to be another spring of, I don't know. I mean, I hope that just like if fans are in the stands, that we actually get back to being in a room with players and coaches, even if it's at a podium and us at a distance. I don't want another season of Zoom, but I'm sure spring is going to be, mainly Zoom and not much access.
Yeah, well, we get our 15 minutes. I don't know.
We're kind of conditioned to be pessimistic when it comes to media access.
I'll no comment this portion of the podcast.
I think I said it about as nice as it could be said. So, all right. Well, hoops coming up on Thursday night. Oklahoma, Texas, then the Big 12 tournament. Now, is that at all? I mean, there's really no way you can, Bob. There's no way that you can compress that, can you? To get in and get out. I mean, you pretty much just play one day, play the next day, then it's over.
Yep, and that's why I guess that's the only reason why I'm not as outlandish about this week. Like, they're playing 4 games in 7 days. Well, when they get to these conference tournaments, like some teams end up playing 4 in 4 days. So, and you talk to any player, they rather that. They just constantly be on the go instead of playing 3 in 3 weeks with 2 or 3 postponements like OU went through during this last month.
By the way, did the Big Ten take a hit last night with Michigan just getting their faces caved in?
No, because the Illini are awesome.
I know, but I mean, people were like talking about Michigan like they could be the number 1 overall seed, and that just because the Big Ten is so strong, like they have all these teams. Like Michigan now just looks like a other team in the conference with a good record.
You know what sucks is Michigan, I think, is still really good, but because I watched basically the entire game and how they got their ass beat last night, I will not be able to pick them to go to the final. And I know that mentality is wrong, and they probably will. But because I watched that, I'm not going to be able to.
Well, they were without one of their main guys, weren't they? The little brother of what's his name? Michigan.
They were what?
Weren't they without a key player? Were they not?
They had Wagner.
Oh, okay. They had Wagner. Okay.
He stunk last night.
Oh.
He was terrible.
So they were without him, but not physically.
He was there.
And is Johnny Manziel trying to make the PGA? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, it's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. That people, it's moronic that it's even being pushed as golf content.
Well, he's got a
he has
gut
zero
on him.
chance.
He's got a belly.
Who cares?
Yeah, it's just a good clickbait story.
No, that's all it is. It's like these people that think that they can just wake up and play golf. It's not going to happen. Good luck, though. I don't even think he could make the cut at a he wouldn't be able to win the Oklahoma Open, let alone get on the PGA Tour. And that's not a slam on the Oklahoma Open. That usually has some pretty good players in it.
Yeah. No, but he couldn't go down to like the...
Last year, he's won multiple times on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, he couldn't even go down to like the Duncan shootout and win that.
Probably not. Oklahoma's a good golf state, though. OU's winning the Cabo Collegiate right now. Winner of that gets into the Valero Texas Open, too.
Very nice. All right, guys. Well, I enjoyed it. We will do it again next week. Glad to have everybody back in the fold. And don't forget Dead Soxy. Great partner. Go check them out. I know a lot of people have been sending me their order sheets, and we really appreciate all you guys going out and supporting Sooner Scoop and the Unofficial 40 podcast at deadsoxy.com. So until next time, we'll see you right back here on the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com.